The NBA draft really plays a massive role in the trajectory of a player's career, far more than most people realize. Sure, the best and most talented players will thrive in any situation, but when it comes to players that have potential to develop into something great, the people around them heavily dictate whether or not that potential is reached. A player given the opportunity to develop with the trust of those around him in one situation will likely become more productive and confident than another guy who may be equally as talented but never given a chance elsewhere. Which brings us to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be discussing Shake Milton of the Philadelphia 76ers and how far he's come to beat the odds and become not only a regular member of the rotation for a top team in the NBA, but a highly impactful player that is genuinely important to the team's success, especially after being counted out so many times along the way to get here. We'll discuss what he went through, how he overcame it, and what exactly it is about him that makes him one of the early favorites so far to win the 6th Man of the Year award. Before we start though, it turns out about 67% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Shake Milton was born to his parents Myra and Lisa Milton under the real name Malik, and Myron was actually a former college basketball player himself. In his time, he developed the nickname Milkman, so when he and Lisa had their first child being Malik, Myron immediately started calling him his little milkshake, which then led to the nickname of Shake, sticking around to the point where nobody even calls him Malik anymore. Shake grew up in Oklahoma and attended high school at Owasso High School. In his time there, he was truly dominant to the point where he won the Gatorade Player of the Year award for the state of Oklahoma both in his junior and senior seasons. He was dropping 30 points per game as a senior, and on top of the Gatorade award, he was racking up Player of the Year awards, all-state team recognitions, and all of the like, pretty much being the best player in the state of Oklahoma in his time there. He was firmly on every top 100 recruiting list, but was only ranked as high as 66th by Rivals.com. Which is definitely good, but not McDonald's All-American good, and by no means was he viewed as a sure thing NBA prospect being ranked in that range. Sure, he did one day want to make the NBA, as pretty much every player at that level does, but coming out of high school he was actually focused on becoming a general manager of an NBA team one day, and he made his college decision to sign for SMU, and their coach Larry Brown was a big reason why. Brown has a ton of experience coaching at the NBA level and being in front offices and working with them, having experienced every level of success in the league, so Shake viewed it as the perfect environment to learn under, especially because he also ran NBA level sets with his team unlike most other college programs. At SMU, he had a strong and steady 3-year career, winning over the starting job early on as a freshman as a point guard, and improving every season he played with the team. His scoring production went from 11 per game as a freshman, to 13 as a sophomore, to 18 points per game as a junior, and in all of those seasons, he was one of the most reliable perimeter shooters in the country, making over 42% of his shots from 3 in all 3 seasons. In this time, he was firmly on the NBA radar, even being predicted by some major outlets as first-round talent, but at the end of his junior season he broke his hand unfortunately, and that injury hurt his draft stock a bit. He still declared for the 2018 NBA draft anyway, but in the pre-draft process he was unable to work out much for teams and show what he could do. As a result of this, he fell pretty hard in the draft, being taken at the bottom of the 2nd round at 54th overall, originally by the Dallas Mavericks before getting traded to the Philadelphia 76ers on draft night. Now, as a second-round rookie coming into a team like the Sixers that were pretty strong playoff contenders with big aspirations, it was completely expected that his role would be minimal immediately, especially as he was still recovering from his injury too. He signed a 2-way contract with the team, meaning that he would spend most of his time down in the G League, with a limited amount of time allotted to playing with the Sixers themselves. Even though there wasn't a path to playing time right away, there would be in the future, and he knew that, so he put his head down and got to work in the G League, where he completely dominated. From day one, he looked way too good to be playing in the G League, and on the season, he put up about 25 points per game, which was good for 4th best in the league, along with 5 assists and 5 rebounds per game. After that year, the Sixers took notice of his play and rewarded him with a 4-year contract only worth the minimum, which was still good for him because it was a guaranteed contract and it would give him the foot in the door that he needed to continue working his way into the team. At the start of last season, it was even looking like he would be part of the team's guard rotation, but after just a few games, he injured himself, which took him out of the team's focus, and when he got back healthy, he was back at the end of the bench. In fact, at the All-Star break last year, which is a time when teams tend to buckle down and shift into playoff mode, adjusting their rotations accordingly, head coach Brett Brown had a meeting with every player on the team, and while meeting with Shake, he told him straight up that he was no longer a part of the team's rotation and that he would not be playing. This was pretty crushing for Shake because at the time he was starting to get back into his groove in the minutes that he was getting, but instead of pouting, he stayed ready, and wouldn't you know it, an opportunity opened right back up for him when both Josh Richardson and Ben Simmons suffered injuries shortly after that meeting he had with his coach. So immediately after being told he was out of the rotation, he was thrown right back in it, and this time he made the most of it. He was placed into the team's starting lineup basically by default after the injuries, and in his second NBA start, he dropped 20 points against the Cleveland Cavaliers. This gave him more confidence than he ever had at this level, and 2 games later led to his official coming out party as someone who can legitimately perform. That game, the Sixers were playing very undermanned against the Los Angeles Clippers on national television, and Shake Milton decided to put the team on his back and drop 39 points while being guarded by players like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They lost the game, but Shake made sure to keep it close when most assumed it would be a blowout. In that same span, he also broke over the course of the next few games the NBA's record for consecutive three-point shots made in games at 13 in a row, and on top of his highly reliable perimeter shooting, he was attacking the basket hard and finishing strong. Shake remained a starter for the entirety of the rest of the season last year, and that brings us to the current season. This year, all of the confidence he built up last season by proving everyone wrong along the way has led to him breaking out even further, and most see him as one of the top candidates for 6th Man of the Year. On the season right now, he's averaging about 15 points per game, while shooting 48% from the field, which is pretty efficient. While you may view this as a demotion after seemingly earning the starting job last year, he's actually thriving more in this kind of role off the bench, and he even closes games down the stretch and practically plays starter minutes regardless, so it's the best of both worlds. With players like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid leading the way for the team, the Sixers desperately needed shot creators and shooters around them to bring out the best in them, and finding Shake at the end of the second round a few years ago is exactly the kind of diamond in the rough they could have only dreamed of. He's very crafty, creating shots off the dribble, his finishing around the basket has statistically ranked amongst the best in the entire NBA percentage-wise, and of course, his ability to shoot from the perimeter and space the floor opens things up a ton for center Joel Embiid to perform at the MVP level he has been so far this season. If there's one thing to learn from Shake Milton and his journey, is that setbacks are always able to be overcome if you keep the right attitude and maintain your confidence, because after being told he was done getting minutes a year ago, he's now one of the most important players on the team. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about Shake Milton and his career moving forward. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.